We're going to be discussing how to handle pet poisoning from rodenticides with James Rodriguez of JT Eaton, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, discussing all things pests. And I got James Rodriguez. We're going to be discussing how to handle dog poisoning or animal poisoning or suspected animal poisoning when you get that call to deal with it. And but before that, I want to remind everybody, join us on the Pest Geek Society by going to pestgeekpodcast.com. Also, we have a new group for the listeners of the Pest Geek Podcast that you can join, and you can comment on the podcast, comment on things going on in the podcast, bring up some things that you would like discussed, and also just any issue that we're having in the industry. We'd love to discuss it with you. It is the listeners group, Pest Geek Podcast listeners, so you can just join that. Also, we got a Facebook page. You can join us on Facebook on the page. On Facebook. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the discussion.
You're sitting in your truck or you're in your office. Your phone rings. You poisoned my dog. Are you ready for this call? We're going to cover this today on the Pest Geek Podcast. My name is James Rodriguez, Technical Director with JT Eaton. So what should you do? Here's some tips. The first one, and more important than anything I'm going to say moving forward, is you're going to respond with great concern. You're going to be concerned about the emotions that your customer is going through. You're going to be concerned about that animal. You don't want to poison something that wasn't your intent. They're panicking. They need reassurance from you. So here's what you're going to do. You're not going to take the blame because you don't know if it is you that caused that poisoning, but you need to be prepared. You're going to give that customer the SDS sheet or the label, and you're going to send it to whoever they want you to send it to. And of course, you want to make sure that vet gets a copy of it, or he knows what product that you've used. You're going to be prepared for that. So that means your truck should have it, your office should have it. You need to be ready to fax that, email that, etc. So you're also going to do this. You're going to ask for the symptoms so you have an idea what that customer is seeing in their animal. Are there seizures going on? Is there blood coming out of that animal? Get the symptoms from them and be prepared to write it down. But with anticoagulants, the great thing about them is there is an antidote. And assure them of that. Vitamin K1 is the antidote. Most treated dogs live where the vet gives them the vitamin K1 over a specified period, and they live. And I'll cover that right now. But don't deny that it was you. It may not have been you, but don't deny it, because what that's going to do with that type of call, it's going to create friction. The other thing, don't be an armchair vet. Don't give them advice to induce vomiting. Don't give them advice to how to treat the animal, because here's the thing. You're working outside of the scope of your license when you do that. You're not a vet. I know it sounds messed up. You may know the answers, but we need to lean towards safety. Don't delay on getting them that SDS sheet and that label. So what's the vet going to do? The vet is going to respond to the customer. It's going to respond to that customer. And here's what the customer is going to do. It's going to take the dog to the vet. It's going to say, I think my dog was poisoned with rat poison. That's going to point the vet in the direction to start treatment. The vet will examine the dog, look at the feces, the eyes, to see if there's any blood coming out of it. It'll ask about seizures or check for seizures. The vet may even induce vomiting to see if any of that anticoagulant comes out, so it can identify that bait. And that's why it's colored. So when they induce vomiting, they can see if there is indeed bait within that animal. The vet's probably going to keep that dog for observation for about 3 days and start vitamin K1 treatments and look for improvement over those 3 days. If it appears that the dog has been getting better, they may send that dog home in 3 days and send that dog home with vitamin K1 pills. And that can be anywhere from 15 to 20 days. And instruct the homeowner that the dog needs to have all these pills taken as prescribed for the period prescribed for, 15 or 20 days, whatever it is. Because if that dog is indeed poisoned and the homeowner stops giving them those pills, those symptoms can come back again. And the anticoagulant level can start rising in the body of the animal, and it's going to come back. So if you are accused, here's some things that I jotted down is, of course, again, your SDS sheet, but be prepared to go out to that property and inspect your stations. See if they've been tampered with. See if any were open. See if if it's feasible for the dog to get to these stations. Make sure your stations are secured. Make sure they're labeled, because they may call the ag department on you and issue a complaint against you, and all your stations need to be up to par. If they're not, you're going to get a violation. So follow up with the dog's owner as well. That day you're going to follow up. Hey, how's that dog doing? You're going to be concerned. And then 3 days after, when they release that dog, 4 days after, hey, I'm just checking how that dog's doing. Number one, you are concerned. You don't want that dog to die. But more importantly, you're taking proactive approaches to making your customer realize that you are definitely concerned. You need to earn their trust again. But you need to be able also, when you get to that property, is get your camera out. Get your camera out and start documenting your stations. Take a look at them, see if there's anything in them, take pictures of them, mark them, do whatever you need to do in pictures, so you have some type of file on it. Things that help out is read and do your research on your rodent baits. Know what you're using. Know how it affects a 20-pound dog. There's information on the web on that, so you have an idea. Train your staff on this, on dog poisonings. Train them on how to respond, how to talk to the customers. But do this and follow up with a written plan for your staff and your techs, or even yourself. So when that call comes in, you are ready 100%. Use lower toxic baits like a first generation bait. JT Eaton makes peanut butter and an apple bait, and it's diphacinone. The active ingredient stays in the body of the animal for about 90 days, as opposed to a second generation bait where it can stay up into the body up to 200 days plus. So using a first generation bait can help you out because it's a lower tiered product. It's good. On light infestation, it works great. The other thing you can do is you can use metal bait stations or heavy plastic bait station like JT Eaton makes. We make the top loader, it's almost like a pipe. So it's really hard to get into it because it does have that screw lid. You can't kick it and open it. The same thing for the 903 Rat Fortress. If you kick that, it can't open because it's a screw, unless that screw is loose. The last thing is, manufacturer reps are out there for a reason. They can help you in a situation like this. So can distributor reps. If you're bidding on a high-risk account, reach out to them so you can have the best devices, you can have the right type of bait on that property, and with that, you're lowering your risk. You're lowering the risk of accidental poisoning, whether it's a dog, a cat, endangered species, whatever it is. But it's for your company, your protection, and your license. Thank you, and this is James from JT Eaton on the Pest Geek Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.